What's up, guys? I was watching this video on YouTube, and it was the Fresh and Fit guys, and they had a special guest on there, Abba from Abba and Preach. And shout out to Abba and Preach. I really appreciate a lot of their content, and I really like their perspective. Um, they tend to put out very level-headed um, thinking and perspectives. And so shout out to them for doing what they do, man. But they did this thing. It's Apple was talking about it, and they did this thing where they were interviewing, some young ladies. It was an open discussion kind of thing, and they were not kind of, but they were talking about expectations and unrealistic expectations that women tend to have with regard to the type of men that they want to attain. And this is something that Kevin Samuels tends to deal with a lot um, in a lot of his material, and a lot of the younger generation that I see, and then also when you watch uh, Kevin's feedback, and when you watch some of his shows, you see that there's some older women that also are involved in this type of thinking where they think that just because they get a certain type of, or they've acquired a certain type of status in business or in whatever their endeavors are, um, that they are more likely to attain a specific type of man, um, being social status and economic status and such. And that has become a pivotal uh, point of interest for a lot of these women getting men that are in these types of situations. And we've gotten away from personalities and what truly matters when you're talking about a relationship. Now, are finances important? Absolutely. However, um, finances only go so far. If you're dealing with a person that you find, their personality to be detestable or deplorable, or you just don't have a meeting of the minds, then you're probably going to have issues regardless, and you're probably not going to stay in that relationship very long. And it's just not going to work out. And so, a lot of these relationships are based off of what a man can provide as far as stability and excess, right? They want to be able to live this lavish lifestyle and have maids and get diamond rings and jewelry and all these kind of things, which is great. You know, things are nice. I think a lot of people like things, but I think when you put those uh, high on the priority list over the type of person, as far as personality wise, that you hope to attain, you tend to do yourself a disservice in that area. And so when Abba was trying to convey this information to them, a lot of them tend, a lot of them in the discussion tend to, it tended to go over their heads. They didn't get it. And one of the problems I think that has a lot to do with this issue is he used a word that clearly the one who spoke up didn't understand. He spoke of the word arrogant. And we have a very, very big problem in our society where we take words and we have this thing where we say, oh, well, this is what it means to me. Well, that's great, but I don't care what it means to you. I want to know what it means. And this tends to be lost on a lot of people, where we conflate ideas and words to be things that we think that they should mean. And more often than not, I find that we're wrong, right? A lot of people are wrong when it comes to their definitions and what words actually mean, compared to what they think they mean. And a lot of times we use in our society words improperly. And this was the case in this situation, and it was based off of how she felt the words meant. And they had nothing to do with anything. And so she was lost as far as where she was going on the subject. And that was one of the things that Abel was saying. He was saying, what you're describing isn't necessarily arrogance. And if it is, then you're describing yourself, because you're talking about a person who's bragging about having things, and yet these are the things that you want, out of the person that you are hoping to attain. And so it's just a very, very weird thing. But another thing that I find very, very interesting, and I had this conversation, and you guys kind of pitch in and let me know what you think, but I think a lot of the issues that we have with women nowadays, our society has with women, rather, with their ideas of what they want, has a lot to do with men in general. I think we created a lot of these type of ideas, what with the things that we put on TV, the things that we showed young men. Were going around and were flashing all this money and the women around them, and this type of thing. It makes sense to me that women would pattern themselves in a fashion that would garner the attention of men who had these types of things. And so, to me, it's not all too baffling or confusing at all that these women, it's not surprising that they would want those things, because we've raised them up to think that, okay, these are the type of women that men want. And so I understand the things that Kevin Samuels is saying, but I think there has to be a really hard conversation, and no one seems to be bringing it up, about the role that men played in creating the type of women that we find to be detestable, or unmarriable, or just not good in relationships. They're not conducive to a healthy relationship. And I think that has a lot to do with men's participation and lack thereof. And I don't think that gets spoken to a lot. Because here's the thing. Men have not made it and I'm not going to say all men, because there's definitely men that are out there that have children, or have had children, and they have made a conscious effort to be there in their children's lives. But there are a lot of men that did not and were not. And for that reason, it was left to women to describe what a man should be. And for that reason, I think if they haven't been with men, and their idea of a man is something that is left up to Hollywood, or what their mothers told them, all the things that a man should not be, based off of the pain that they felt from being abandoned by a man, or whatever the case may be, then I think that we would be in a better place, right? But because men were absent, and they did not play a part in what these young women, their impressions of what a man should be, these fathers were not present to show them what a man should be. A lot of them have no idea what they should be looking for, but what they do know is that they should be seeking security, right? And so they look at, okay, who are the people that can provide me the security in which I'm wishing to and hoping to attain? And they see the doctors and the lawyers, but then they also, what's in the forefront of the mind in pop culture are the artists, the hip hop artists, the rock stars, and so on and so forth. And that is what they see. And so their thinking is, okay, well, what is around them? And in these videos, you have scantily clad women who are hypersexualized and whatnot. And so these women that are coming up are modeling themselves after and fashioning themselves after the women that they see surrounding these men. I don't see why anyone would be confused as to why the Kardashians are so heavy in pop culture. Look at the men that they were able to attain, right? These are the men that young women want, right? They have successful guys. These are the guys that they saw with all these things and talking about having all these things and showering women that they talk about in their videos or in their songs. Like, okay, if you get with me, you can have this, that, so on and so forth. It's not a big deal, right? These guys that are saying these things, the Kardashians are pulling these men that are talking about splurging on women this way. So it's only natural that they would model themselves after the Kardashians, right? So I think that while I understand and I respect Kevin Samuels for pointing these things out, I also think that it's doing us a disservice by not addressing the reality that men did have a part to play with the reality of what we're seeing right now. And so if you ever want a reminder of how important it is for men to be, number one, be better men, but then also to be an active participant in your children's lives. Look at the women that you are having a problem with, the ones that you find detestable, the ones that you find deplorable, the ones that you find unmarriageable, and remember that someone was not there. Someone was not a very good example, right? Someone did not educate properly. And be cognizant of that when you procreate with a woman, right? And then decide to abandon those responsibilities. Because all you're doing is putting more drops of water in the ocean and creating a larger problem, right? A larger body of water. So just to put that on your minds. So I'd like to hear you guys' feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, and just tell me what you think. Tell me, where your mind is and whether you think that I'm on to something or if you disagree. I'm open to all that. Thank you.